First things first, we're recording? Okay,
Yep.
awesome. We're gonna turn on the stove, this is what I'm doing here. We're gonna turn on to medium high. We're gonna grab some olive oil. You wanna add about 2 tablespoons worth?
You want to talk about the history of Ratatouille a little while you're
Sure.
going?
So you're gonna add your 2 tablespoons of olive oil. I'm eyeing it now from experience, but you're gonna wait until the oil gets kind of shimmery. That doesn't really make sense, but it will. When you're looking at it, you'll notice a difference. And if you're ever unsure, you just stick a piece of eggplant, which is the first ingredient we're adding into this, to make sure that the oil's hot enough. We're not trying to deep fry our eggplant. We just want like a little bit of cooking happening because the eggplant is a lot firmer and takes more cooking time. As you can see, I've pre-chopped up my eggplant.
You have to soak it in water, because I've heard of people like soaking eggplant in water before they cook it.
I have heard of that too. I don't do it because I find if I don't soak them in water, they actually cook faster.
Oh.
Yeah, because yesterday I was doing my eggplant and they only took an hour to like completely, because usually in Sri Lankan cuisine, so I'm a Sri Lankan, you deep fry your eggplant to get it really soft and it takes like 2 minutes. But for this, you need like time. You want to let the flavor seep in. So what I was just showing you is like the size of like the chunk of eggplant you want. Just gonna swirl the oil around. I'm using a Dutch oven, but you can use any heavy bottomed pan. The reason I'm using a Dutch oven is because, well, first of all, I really like Dutch ovens. This one's my favorite pot. I inherited it from a neighbor actually, so that's the history of my pan.
Isn't that really hot? What, like you were holding it on the side?
This does get very hot, but I just turned on the stove. Like when you're 30 minutes into cooking, don't touch the handle.
Like is this superhuman Dinu who's like touching?
Yeah, this is really heavy though. As you can hear from the thud. I'm also gonna take out my favorite spoon. This is from Peru. Okay, so we are going to just toss in our eggplant, all of it. And you can't hear this, but there's like a slight bubbling, crackling noise going on at the bottom. The reason we're adding the eggplant first, we want to get a cook on it, like at least a slight cook. It's gonna take 2 minutes, it's really fast. So you're gonna stir it around a little bit. So ratatouille is like one of those dishes that you don't really expect to see in like a really fine French cuisine place. Like when you go to fine dining, you don't really expect to find ratatouille. You expect to find confit BLD. But ratatouille is what basically, if you go to France, any French mother, father, parent who needs to cook for their kids is going to make this because it makes very good use of late summer vegetables. So everything's fresh and, you know, vegetables are healthy. I hope they are because that's what I'm trying to do. But so we're just going to stir this.
So in France, it's not a fancy dish, but to us, I mean, to me, when I hear ratatouille, I think, oh, it's fancy.
That's just French.
Because the name's French. Yes, that's why it sounds fancy.
Exactly. So for an adult who's making this, you would want to add like a cup of wine later on in the cooking process. The French would probably add a wine. You know, they drink a lot. Even the kids drink. But here we're gonna take out the wine for good measure. So my favorite part about this particular recipe is that you season the vegetables every step of the way. So you're not just expecting, oh, these are vegetables, they're healthy, we're done, we're gonna season this at the very end. You're gonna take pepper and you're just gonna season generously. And you're also gonna take salt. Also seasoning generously. And this actually just makes sure that at every step of the cooking process, you have like a new layer of flavor. The eggplant is its own thing. The bell peppers we're gonna add, the zucchini, they all have their unique like little notes and we're trying to accentuate all of them. If you don't like eggplant, you can substitute this with mushroom, squash, any vegetable that has a little bit of firmness to it.
Everything you've mentioned, my kids don't like.
What do they like?
They'll eat broccoli, cauliflower.
I have a really good recipe for broccoli. You can roast the broccoli, toss it in olive oil and a little bit of crushed garlic and roasted lemon. And it like elevates the entire thing because we're all used to steamed garlic, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically what you do is you put the broccoli in the oven, toss in olive oil with like a whole piece of lemon and like a clove of like a, you know, that entire chunk of garlic,
Yep.
like chopped in half, roast the
Okay.
entire thing.
Yum. And I love roasted garlic.
Me too. I can't stand steamed garlic.
Because once you roast it, it takes away that strong taste, right? You could just eat it
Like
that.
roasty, warm, toasty deliciousness. Yeah, for sure. So
the heat is on medium?
the heat is on medium high because you're trying to you're getting a quick brown on the pieces of eggplant. When we first added them in, they were like really beautiful white, but now, shall I just displace this a little bit?
To do what? Oh, okay.
Show you the inside of the pot. So you'll notice that some chunks have started to brown. And it already smells like food. Even though it's just eggplant and it isn't even fully cooked, it already smells like food because of the salt and pepper, which is something I can appreciate from a recipe. Okay, so it's been about 2 minutes, and we're gonna start displacing our eggplant into a different bowl. So I have a bowl on the side here, and we're gonna move our eggplant into it because there's something else we have to give a quick cook. And we're gonna repeat the process with the eggplant. So 2 tablespoons of olive oil approximately. And we're gonna add, instead of eggplant, zucchini. So the other cool thing about a Dutch oven is that it develops a crust at the bottom. Now for vegetables, that isn't helpful at all because vegetables don't really, like when they burn, there's only a certain, I guess you could say, plateau where they still taste good. But if you're doing like a roast or something, if you're just letting it kind of burn at the bottom, you can take those little burnt bits and make a gravy at the end, which is kind of cool. So 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Swirl it around. And your zucchini goes in. Shoot, I'm sorry.
Okay.
So the zucchini, we're also just trying to get it to soften up a little bit.
I love zucchini.
Your kids like zucchini?
They'll eat it. They don't love it.
Do they like any vegetable?
They'll eat carrots, potatoes, like I said, broccoli, cauliflower. They love snow peas, snap peas.
Well, snow peas are delicious.
I
I guess,
hate mushrooms.
is it the texture they don't like or the flavor?
I think the flavor.
That is very interesting to me because mushrooms have like a very intense umami flavor. So I just added the salt and pepper. We're seasoning it the same way we did the eggplant. And just like the eggplant, we're just trying to get a quick brown on the zucchini. Okay, hold on 1 second. I'm going to grab another bowl.
So everything needs to be cooked individually first.
Sorry?
Everything needs to be cooked.
Not everything, just the zucchini and eggplant to get a quick like cook on them. They're gonna take the longest to like soften up.
Okay.
So we're just trying to get some color and also to get that texture to the place where you're not, it doesn't feel like you're eating rocks, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Or in the case of the eggplant, you don't want to feel like you're eating a sponge.
Come in.
So we just have our last bits of zucchini out.
Hold on.
Everything okay?
Yep.
Okay.
Bailey's gonna join us.
We're gonna add another 2 tablespoons of olive oil, and we're going in with our garlic.
Garlic. You had me at garlic. Yum.
So the garlic, we're gonna actually let this cook out for about 6 minutes. You want to get really soft and brown, but not burnt brown. We're seasoning it again like the zucchini and the eggplant.
There's Billy.
Hi. And then we're gonna add black pepper again. So black pepper adds like a nice like spicy flavor, but it's not like hot. And then on top of that, you're gonna add, so what I specified in the recipe, what most people have is thyme and like herbs like that. I'm actually also gonna add chili flakes. And on top of that, we're gonna add some minced garlic. And while that just browns, so apologies, I'm getting garlic up my nose. So I'm just gonna chop up this tomato really quickly. You're just gonna half and quarter your tomatoes. And what you'll notice is that as soon as you add your tomato, it's gonna start like breaking up and softening. It's gonna make the saucy base.
So right now, what's happening at the bottom of your pot?
Yes.
Is anything burning?
Sorry?
Is anything burning or no?
Things are smoking.
Okay.
They're not burning. It's just this was happening last night too when I tested it out. Can you see anything?
Yeah.
Okay. The good news is that like the crust that forms at the bottom of your pan, it doesn't actually go into the ratatouille when you cook it. It just kind of sticks to the bottom.
Okay.
So don't worry about it. This is basically what I'm saying.
And it doesn't give off like a burnt taste, anything?
You want like a charred flavor, but you don't want burnt. Burnt tastes like straight bitter. Charred is like, oh, this is a nice little touch of bitter to accompany your vegetable.
So how many tomatoes? 4?
You can use 3 to 4 medium tomatoes. I'm using 4 because these are a little smaller than usual, so I'm using 4. And you want to cut them into large chunks. Just reduce the heat down to medium-low. And we're also going to add our bell pepper. So this has also been cut into
Chunks.
Large chunks, because you still want to bite.
I love this dish because there's so many different colors.
And so many different flavors too, because of different textures, different flavors. But bell pepper is going to be really sweet. And what I noticed about this specific bell pepper, the yellow one, has like a slight layer of like spiciness underneath it, which is really interesting. So then, when you kind of notice that the tomatoes are starting to break down, I wonder if you guys can see this. I'm just going to remove it for a second. Once you notice that the tomatoes have started to soften up and break down, you are going to add your zucchini and then your eggplant.
And this sort of dish, can we add big chunky white mushrooms?
So remember when we cooked up our eggplant, you're gonna, the same thing for the mushrooms. You wanna cook them a little bit. I've actually heard a very interesting recipe where they deep fry the mushrooms and they put like crispy mushrooms on top, which could be interesting. I know kids like deep fried things for some reason, so that could appeal to them. So now it's just really beautiful. It has all these colors going on. and everything was seasoned with the salt and pepper. So you have all those different layers of flavor, sweetness from the bell pepper, the crunch of the zucchini, and depending on how you like your eggplant, you either get like slightly chewy eggplant or really soft, silky eggplant. At this point, you're gonna want to stir this for depending on how you like your eggplant. So the eggplant really determines the cook. Everything else kind of does its own thing. Either for an hour or 2 hours if you want it really silky, depending on the heat you're using, or if you like a lot of crunch to your vegetable.
But you're not standing there and stirring it for an hour.
No.
Okay.
Let it sit. So basically what I did last night, I let it sit, my version, like just what I like to eat is really soft eggplant. I let it sit there for an hour, and I only stirred once in 30-minute intervals. So once right before I closed it, once in the middle, and then once at the very end. So very fast. You can go to your class if you want. If you have it on really low heat, you could just even forget about it for an hour and just leave it.
Mm-hmm.
So you can go to your class, do your thing, and then come back and check on your eggplant. The cool part is this prep. Last night I timed it, took me 20 minutes. I listened to music, listened to a podcast, did everything I needed to do, and I was still preparing for this. So you can prep your vegetables ahead of time, and you can make your beautiful ratatouille the next day, or whenever you want, really.
It's actually sort of like a stir fry.
It is, except it has that like tomato binding everything together, you know?
Mm.
But yeah, I'm a huge fan of stir fry, so I can't bash it, but this is more of like, you're really like stewing the vegetables, but without a lot of liquid. So at this point, I think we've been cooking for, around 20 minutes. And if you let this sit and simmer for another 10, 20, you're ready to serve.
And wait, when you let it sit, do you cover it?
Yes.
Okay.
So then we would let this sit for 10 to 20 minutes. Look at that silence. 10 to 20 minutes. And yeah, you can serve right after that. That's it.
Yum. That is actually really easy.
Yeah, it is.
For someone who hates cooking, me, I could actually do that.
Yeah. And you can put in any vegetable you want, as long as it's like different kinds of vegetables. I really wanted to do something that people could like go to their farmer's market or like just the grocery store and they would have. Unfortunately, the one thing I couldn't find, weirdly, was basil. I have to get this basil plant.
Isn't it like everywhere?
They had none of it. I went to 2 grocery stores. They didn't have a single. This was the last basil plant. So
Okay, Billy, we're out of basil as well in 2020. Not just eggs and milk.
We also ran out of flour at one point, so that was interesting.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What was I going to say? So if you simmer it longer, like the way you like it,
Yes.
you could even like toast some baguette or whatever and then put it on a baguette.
Oh, for me, I have to tell this story. I was literally, after I'd been stewing it, I was just sitting there doing homework. My sister comes down and she's snacking on chips. And I'm like, do you want to try my ratatouille? And you know, sisters, they like bully you a little bit. And they're like, no way. I don't want to taste your crap. Sorry, you're junk, you're trash. So she literally, I turned around and I looked back and she's eating it. She's like spooning it on her chips. It was like where is it?
Like a tortilla or something?
No, it was like a kettle cooked chip, you know, the one everyone eats. She was like spooning it on her chips and eating it. So it's like, she was like making herself feel better, I guess, for eating chips with vegetables, but it does taste good. And it's super easy. I wouldn't want my reputation on the line if I gave someone a really, really disgusting recipe. But yeah.
After that, all that is cooked, let's say you don't want ratatouille anymore. You can actually stick all that into a blender.
And make like a baba ganoush, like a dip or something. Oh, for sure. And if you want to do that, you can add like tahini. I think it's tahini. Yeah, tahini, like chickpeas or something like that. And it's amazing. Yeah. Okay, this is like one of the best parts. You get like this like beautiful sauce. Remember how I was saying like that black stuff? It doesn't come up to your dish, especially if you're using a Dutch oven. This is why I love it. Like, this is my baby. My Dutch oven is my pride and joy.
It stays there.
it just stays there. And I want to show you guys, I wish you could see like this liquid at the bottom that's like beautiful, just like tomato reduction. Can you see it?
Yep.
And it's like the black stuff is not going to come up if you use like a heavy bottom pan, like the one I'm using. So yeah, at this point, the eggplant, I'm already starting to notice is starting to break down smaller pieces. Oh, and one thing I should point out, depending on how you like the texture of your vegetable, let's say you're on like a time crunch, you can always chop them a little smaller and get your pieces a little softer in faster time.
Yeah.
But if you want, like it's super cold outside these days, you want something hearty and hot, you want to go for like bigger chunks so it feels like you're eating meat. I guess I'm someone who like loves a steak on their day off. So this is good enough because you don't feel like you're missing anything. When my mom was a vegetarian, she only ate like rice and like this lentil curry that we had, and she would like she'd feel malnourished basically. I mean, obviously she's only eating rice and a lentil curry, but like dishes like this where you're eating it and you get to chew and you get a big bite of vegetable, it's perfect.
And for anyone who needs meat in their meal, chop up some chicken breast or something and throw it in there.
Actually, maybe even some thigh. You could put pieces of lamb because there's some thyme in there. You could add like a sprig of rosemary. You can like up the entire thing. You can add anything to this. And like I said, for like the adults, or if you're very, I guess you like red wine a lot and you're a teenager, you could put a quarter cup to a cup of red wine. Let the alcohol simmer out while you're cooking your vegetables. And you have a good dish.
The only negative thing about this whole thing,
yes,
is I can't have any.
I wish you could have some.
I wish I could have some too.
So I'm going to serve a little bit so that you can see what it looks like. I'm going to get some of my basil. And the basil is beautiful because it's like this like fresh aromatic, because you have like all this like warm hearty goodness, but you need something like fresh to break through everything. So I'm just going to take a few sprigs of basil. By the way, I recently learned that you're supposed to really overpluck your basil plants. You're not supposed to be sparing in how much basil you give people. So right now, you don't want to drown your basil because it gets mushy. You just want to kind of like lightly douse them with water and really shake them out, which is what I'm doing on the edge here near my sink.
Yep.
And here, I'm actually going to get a clean cutting board. This one. Oh, no. Oh, there we go. This is how you know we're a family of chefs. Every single cutting board is in use somewhere. So you're gonna you're doing like ribbons basically. And just a light sprinkle of basil.
It makes such a difference when you add basil.
Yes, and you can like smell it from here. When you're eating, you're smelling it. It's amazing.
Okay, stop teasing me with that.
Okay, all right. Right. So that's it. I'm done. And that took us 30 minutes.
Not even.
Yeah.
So that was so quick. Oh my gosh. I think I'm going to try that this weekend. Thank you very much, Dinu.
No problem.
And I'm sure we're going to see more of your cooking in the next few weeks.
Hope so.
I hope too.
Thank you.
No problem.